Welcome back to What Arty Noobs for General Disturbance. This is the KV-2. It's the Tier 6 Soviet heavy tank. It's located on the defending spawn of Ghost Town Assault, and it's under the command of marke12. Now he's elected to use the 152mm howitzer as his main armament, and he's selected a rather large amount of premium ammunition. Game on. Well, with the HE rounds, this tank is actually capable of delivering a shell will do 910 alpha, penetrating 86mm of armor. But with the premium rounds, and it looks like Marky's going to use nothing but premium in this game because he's actually loaded 24 of them, and you can do 700 alpha with those, but they go through 136mm. Now he's in a tier 6 game with tier 5 tanks in it, and there's a very good chance that he's going to meet some tier 5 tanks and penetrate them very easily with each shot. Now the KV-2 is actually devised from a KV-1 that actually had a very large turret mounted on top, which kind of slowed it down. The Soviets started producing them in 1939-1940 when they came across the bunkers in the Finnish defense line on the Mannerheim line. And of course this 152mm howitzer would knock down the bunkers. Waiting for an enemy tank to come into sight. Oh, and it's a Churchill 1. And the first tank he sees, he penetrates and gets 845. Now that is a high roll, because of course it's 700 alpha, so to get 845 is almost maxed out. But the Churchill's determined to try and get him, and he's wiped him out. He took one round. It was a 75mm round, so he's lost 130. The standard reload for this particular howitzer is 23.01 seconds, and Marky's got it down to 18.71. There's two other guns you can actually mount on the KV-2, one of which is a 122mm, that's the stock gun. And oh, look at that M6, and he takes a pen through the side for 698, so that's a low roll. Yes, the other gun is the 107mm, and that's got a lot more pen than the 152. But the 152 is the standard, really, I suppose you might say. Most people like it. Oh! Well, he took a round from the M6, and it was a 90mm round, and it went straight through the commander, actually, and hit him badly. But the good news is that he took out that KV-1SA with one shot. M6, no more. Yep, the M6 goes down with the next round, and he gets 412 from that one, but that's all the M6 had left. He did take another round from that 90mm on the M6, but he's still in the game. Okay, since it's an assault game, it's only 10 minutes long. And he's inching his way around the corner because he's worried about enemy tanks. Fully dialed in, and the Skoda is evaporated with that shot. Yeah, went straight through the cupola and wiped him out. He only got 110 hit points out of it, but that's again all the Skoda had left. And there's a AMX ELC just around the corner. He's only got 3 hit points left. Can you get that guy? Well, no, because the BDR gets one shot in and that guy's out the game. There's only 4 enemies left. No, correction, there's only 3 enemies left now. An A43, an Achilles, and an M44. Okay, A43. Easily penetrated by the premium rounds. This is probably going to be fairly expensive on ammo, but it's having the effect. And the A43 is out the game, and that means now there's only 2 enemies left. An Achilles, who was last seen in the south end of the map, and an M44. He's looking in the south at this moment. He might be up there on the cliff top. Oh, we just lost our BDR, and there's the Achilles. Yes, he is in that spot, but the shell misses. It goes behind the Achilles, but the Achilles is wiped out by the T1 Heavy, who's actually on the south slope of that hill. So there's only 1 enemy left, and that's the M44. He hasn't loaded a HE round yet. He's been playing with nothing but armor piercing. He fires snap, and of course the shell has a large reticule on that howitzer, so the shell goes nowhere near the M44. And I suspect that M10 is getting rather close to him. It's probably going to get the kill shot. And he does! And that's game over for Marky. Here's the end of battle stats, and that was the third mark of excellence for marke12 in the KV-2, and that's his 10th third mark tank so far in the game. He's also managed to get an ace tanker out of that game because he did so much damage, as well as a duelist for taking down 2 tanks who damaged him, a fighter badge for getting at least 4 kills, he got 4 exactly, a fire effect for doing more damage than hit points to his own vehicle. He reset the cap enough times to get a defender medal, and on top of that he did the most damage in the game and got a high caliber out of it. So very well done. Let's have a look at team score. The highest damage was 3,410, and basically he was nuking every enemy tank that was in the cap area with those premium rounds. They just go straight through the armor of some of those tanks. The next highest damage went to the Achilles, who was shooting at our tanks from the outside of the map, shooting in. He got 1,338, and the second highest, or third highest I should say, is the Fifi on our team, who actually got 1,122 hit points of damage. When it came to kills, it was Marky. He got 4 kills in that one. 3 kills went to the Fifi on our team, and 2 kills went to the 720 M41 and the M10 RBFM, and only 1 tank on the enemy team managed to get more than 1 kill, and that was the Achilles. When it came to base XP, actually we didn't do that bit, let's go to this bit now. Yes, when it came to base XP, Marky's got that one as well, so he's got the top in all 3 columns. 1,220 went to Marky. He's the only player to get over 1,000. The next highest being the KV-1S, who managed to get 801, and the Fifi, who managed 728. Now we can go to the detail. He only fired 9 rounds in the entire game. He got 7 direct hits on the enemy and 7 penetrations. The 2 shots that missed were the ones that he fired at the Achilles and the M44. And the reason really, as I said, when it actually happened was he had a huge reticule when he fired. And the trouble is that the shell does have quite some dispersion. And if you're not fully dialed in on the target, it's very difficult to hit it. And the Achilles was moving fairly quickly. The M44 was stationary, but of course he didn't let it dial in. He fired snap, and I'm afraid it went nowhere near the target. He got 3,410 hit points of damage, all of it at close range. He received 3 hits from the enemy, all 3 penetrated. Yeah, the first shot came from the M6, second shot came from the M6, and the third one came from that KV-1SA before he died. And you saw some of the shells actually went through the mantlet in one case and through the side of the mantlet in another. He spotted 1 enemy vehicle, damaged 5 of the enemy, killed 4, and he earned 91 defense points, resetting the cap. On a premium count, he earned 36,792 credits, but the ammunition cost was rather expensive, and he did use consumables, and he actually ended up with a loss of 14,066 credits for the game, but I don't think he'll be worried because he did get his 3rd mark of excellence. 1,220 XP, 3,660 from personal missions payout, and 5,490 experience points altogether. So let's have a quick look at the armor profile for a KV-2. Yep, there you go. That's from Tanks GG. And you can see straight away that the strongest armor is actually around the mantlet, and that's where he actually got struck. In fact, he actually got struck directly on the side of the mantlet here, where the armor is fairly weak. It's only about 90 millimeters. This is the traditional weak spot to go for, just underneath the howitzer. You don't actually want to hit the mantlet itself because it's actually quite strong. In fact, as you're looking here, you can see the effective armor is about 235 millimeters. So you're not really likely to get through, but 1 shell did actually go through this mantlet block here, and I think that's where the equilibrators are, or the device that actually cushions the recoil. And it's only 110 at that particular point, so that's how they managed to penetrate through that block. If they got anywhere else on the block, it probably wouldn't have penetrated, but he aimed directly underneath the howitzer and got it in. And of course, as I said, the best place to put the shell is actually directly underneath the gun in the sweet spot here, where it's only 75 millimeters. It's actually slightly less armor than the traditional traditional area, which is the driver's area on the KV-2, which is a weak spot on the KV-1. You can see here it's about 80 millimeters. So it's actually weaker here than it is on this area here. The upper plate is very well angled. It's not particularly thick, but it's only 40 millimeters, but because it's well angled, it comes out at 55. The lower plate is 75 millimeters, coming back at 87. So unlike most Soviet tanks, you don't want to go for the lower plate because it's actually easier to hit the turret and do damage there than it is to hit the lower plate on this thing and get a pen. Sides of the turret are still fairly strong, 75 millimeters. It was a very heavy turret, and that's what slowed the KV-1 down. It only had a top speed of only 35 kilometers an hour, which is much less than the standard KV-1. And the sides of the hull, where they are about the same as well. So you're not getting any advantage for hitting the side of the hull on this vehicle, where you would get an advantage if you hit the rear, because it's only 50 millimeters at the back of the engine deck here, and 70 down here below. The rear of the turret is 70 millimeters as well. So yes, there is a slight reduction on the rear of the turret. If we look at the actual, rather than the live version rather, you can see that any 152 millimeter shell would just go straight through. So yes, it's no defense against other KV-2s, but it might have the ability to block a shell from a 75 millimeter armed tank if they were able to get a shot at the front just by angling. You could angle this tank and get some reduction in their penetration. I think it's easier to see from the collision model that you're actually getting slightly better. Yes, you're getting about 90 millimeters here now instead of 80. So you're getting a bit more just by angling this tank. So let's have a quick look at the modules. Okay, if we go full screen on the modules, it's actually showing the 107 millimeter gun here. I'm not sure how to switch it over to the one which for the 152, but I think you can see here straight away that the driver is basically almost on the left-hand side of the vehicle with the gunner's mate on the right-hand side. There's a big ammo rack in the floor of the tank, and there's two big fuel tanks directly underneath the turret, and in fact actually all the way up one side, the left side of the tank. The engine is at the back. It's not actually sandwiched between two fuel tanks as it normally would be, but it is a KV-1 configuration with the transmission directly at the rear. In the turret, we can see that the ammo rack is actually in the back of the turret, and it's two loaders to try and get the ammunition in, because it is heavy ammunition. It's 152 millimeter caliber. So yes, it does take a lot of effort to get that in. It's two-part ammo, if I remember correctly as well, which means that they first got to put the shell in, and that takes a two-man job. And then they've got to put the powder charge in after that. And I think, if I remember correctly, it was a casing rather than a bag powder, but don't quote me on that. We've got the gunner on the right-hand side, and we've got the commander on the left-hand side. If you remember, during the game, he lost his commander. And the reason he lost his commander was because the shell went through this part of the mantlet here and went right into the commander, who was sitting directly behind it. So good shooting by, I think it was the M6 at the time. He actually put that shell in there, and he managed to get the commander of the vehicle. Of course, actually hitting the commander means you actually reduce the view range as well. But when this tank is so close to the enemy, even reducing view range is not really going to slow you down that much. So that's where the modules are on the KV-2. So my congratulations to marke12 for getting his third mark of excellence on the KV-2, his 10th third mark. I think we do have some of his other third marks actually on our channel. In fact, I think there's a few waiting to be done as well, so I will get those done as soon as I can. But Marky has been a supporter of the channel for a long time, and we're very pleased that he's actually got his third mark on the KV-2. He made it look easy, but I can tell you, I've seen KV-2s, tier 6 KV-2s, taking on tier 8 heavy tanks and wiping them out with those premium rounds, because they are very, very deadly. the fact that they can do as much damage as they do, and of course have got decent penetration as well. I've seen those KV-2s aim their shells directly on the roof of enemy tanks, and it just goes straight through and wipes them out very, very easily indeed. If you enjoyed that replay, please give this video a like, do subscribe to our channel, leave a little comment down below because it feeds the algorithm, and thank you for watching.